And now we're gonna move over to Bill and Erin Kelly in Ottawa, Canada. They have recently moved to Ottawa about 4 years back. And ever since they moved there, they've been doing environmental initiatives. And they're going to tell us all about one that just happened a month or two ago in their town that they put together.
Thank you, Kayla and the IEF. So we just had our second annual Environment Fair in Ottawa, which is Canada's capital. And we're going to show you a little bit about what that looked like, as well as hopefully give a sense of why we did this endeavor, which I believe was quite successful, and perhaps inspire you to do something similar in your own community. So a little bit about the Ottawa Cluster Environment Group. We are a group based here in Ottawa. We're a Baha'i-inspired group with a core organizing force of about 8 to 9 people. The Environment Fair is one of our endeavors. We also host the Environmental Cafe 613, which you may have heard of. But looking at the Environment Fair, this is the second one that we've had. We had our first one last year, and this Environment Fair featured the following: native tree and seed giveaway, electric vehicles on display, incentives and information about home energy efficiency and solar, pollinators and gardening, kids activities, and community organizations. So we will show you a bit more shortly, and Bill and I are presenting this one, so feel free to jump in anytime you'd like to, Bill. So this is the view from the street of the Environment Fair. You can see we learned from the first year that it would be a good idea to have some signage to attract people walking off the street. And actually, I remember smiling and waving at somebody just walking by, and they came over and we had a great conversation. But these are electric vehicles and a car share vehicle here.
Yeah, just like a detail note on the signage is that we purposely left a lot of space blank around the tops and the bottoms so that we could take it from generic to specific in the future. Like if you wanted to say the OCEG Environment Fair, or the Ottawa Cluster Environment Group, or the Bahá'í Environment Fair, or the community. So we just essentially left ourselves open. We designed the signage so that we would be able to add messaging to the boards.
Right. So the venue for the Environment Fair was actually the local Ottawa Bahá'í Center here in Ottawa. And this is what it looked like sort of before many people started to show up. And this is the view from the other direction.
You can see people here asking questions about the car. It's like one of the value, we're trying to bring value to the community, and that in turn bring the community to us. It's kind of the mode that we're operating in. So one of the ideas here is that we're able to explain all about electric cars and answer people's questions and concerns. And so you're seeing Erin there discussing with a person with that, and you see in the background other people at some of the other tables or booths that we will be describing.
So welcome to the Environment Fair.
There you go.
So we had a number of community groups that we invited to come be a part of the fair with us, and many of them responded affirmatively and were there. One of them, the first one here, is Rotary. And Rotary is, would you like to explain?
Well, I'm sure most of you know that Rotary is an international service organization. Sherry and I are both members of this Rotary of Ottawa South. So the idea here is to bring Baha'i values to service and to leverage in organizations and with people who have like-minded ideas about the betterment of humanity. And so we feel it's important where possible, for Baha'is who are active in their communities to become active in service organizations, because essentially they allow you to leverage your capacities with that of others trying to achieve the similar goals. So we're very strong about building bridges between from our silos and as Baha'is to the service organizations out there, and working elbow to elbow with people who are trying to accomplish the same thing. As it happens with Rotary, they just recently adopted environment as their primary concern, or one of their core primary concerns. And so we're, Sherry and I have been able to be pioneers in helping them to establish environment groups or committees, and showing them kind of which way to go on these things. And it's really just been very, very influential in terms of raising awareness in the community. You see a sign there that says "No Mow May." That's something that the Rotary is sponsoring in Ottawa, to ask people not to mow their grasses in May, so as to encourage pollination.
So here's a close-up of the Rotary members and people approaching the booth. In addition to the Rotary, we had some discussion about home energy and solar.
Mm-hmm. So here, this is an interesting picture, because she's gazing over there while we're intently talking to her. And that's because we had just pointed her over to Aaron, who has a list of incentives for home energy, and that he would be able to help her understand what money was available to help her reorient her house toward lower carbon and lower energy costs. And another interesting thing about this is this lady did not seem to understand English at all. And there's Carol, who is one of the members of our group back there, translating these very intricate questions about her specific circumstance and the appropriate responses and such as that. So the point here is that you can get very intense in terms of, once you bring people in, and they're coming because they want something, they need something, and if you're able to provide it, then they pay attention.
Yes. On the left, you can see Chris, who is an expert in solar energy, having a good conversation with another person as well. Here's a table about community gardens.
So community gardens, this table is actually, it's very, very good that we've put this together and such, but our objective was actually to be able to provide blueprints for building garden boxes and show people how to do them. We weren't able to pull that off for various reasons this year, but it is something that we anticipate in doing the next year. The point being is that we have objectives when we set out to do these environment fairs, but we don't always meet them all. So instead, we just have a table that is discussing with people the value and know-how of doing the tables.
In the city of Ottawa as well, there are a number of parks and public places where there are community garden boxes available that you can get on a list and have a box for the summer. If you live in a dense part of the city where people don't have a lot of land, that's really beneficial. And then you can grow your own food and eat locally with lower carbon emissions, fresh organic produce. So that's really nice.
The community gardens is one of I think the most highly leveraged or most valuable means by which to build community and connect with other people in the community and bring people together to start getting that trust and that working together camaraderie that starts to make a community very strong. So it's not just about the vegetables and the environment, but it's about the Baha'i idea of building community for the sake of the betterment of humanity.
Here's the tree giveaway table. You can see that there are a number of different tree species being offered, small trees, but they will grow very large in time. And the idea here is that if you plant trees in an urban area, it'll help keep the summer temperatures more moderate, provide shade, sequester carbon, a whole host of benefits, and also improve the air quality in the area. So the Bahá'í Center and the Environment Fair were actually located in a part of the city that could use a lot more trees. It's not the most prosperous part of the city, and the trees being planted in this particular area would be very beneficial to the community. Okay, we also have a bike rack at the Bahá'í Center, and several people biked in. This is the Vanier Community Association. So they're a community association that is in the local area, and they strive to do community-based endeavors and initiatives and help foster the local economy as well. So this is Cafes Ottawa. They seek to act as a network between community associations and citizens who are working to promote environmental sustainability in Ottawa.
So this is the big difference in from the first environmental fair and the second, and that is the first one was pretty much all Baha'is with one or two exceptions, and this one is pretty much all everybody but Baha'is except for one or two exceptions, and it really represented a whole lot of the participation of, you might say, community leaders coming together with the Baha'is and sharing and networking with each other. And this was the real win from this particular environment fair, was that we became a source of bringing people who are interested and active in the environment to working together and getting to know each other, what I like to call cross-pollinating. So this is just the first of several that Aaron will be describing.
Right. So the cafes monitors the City of Ottawa's Environment Committee, makes regular and well-received public delegations on issues of concern to their members, and has resulted in strengthening the city's tree protection bylaw and getting the city to report annually on its greenhouse gas emissions. So it's a pretty effective organization and does a lot in our local community. So it's great to have them there. Here's Gentle Ways for Our Planet, another group in Ottawa that inspires individuals to make positive environmental impacts. And they also were involved in a large tree planting endeavor in the city, which was very great. They helped organize that. Here's Greening Sacred Spaces, and this is a very unique and interesting group because they serve as a network among religious organizations, among faith groups, to green their sacred spaces, if you will, to reduce the carbon emissions of all of the, and so they provide advice and counsel on how to best accomplish carbon emission reduction goals at the faith community level, which is really valuable in Ottawa. They
come in and essentially do a evaluation of your building and say, this is what you need to do over time in order to work toward, carbon neutral buildings. And that the idea being that you don't do anything until you need to, like if your furnace breaks, you look at replacing it with heat pumps, etc. They come in and lay this out, and it's all free.
Yes.
It's a very nice service, and they're also very instrumental as a result of the work that they're doing, of building bridges between faiths, because it's what happens when you work with all the various faiths at once. Yes, and they help the faiths obtain funding for the various initiatives too. This is Bird Friendly Ottawa. Bird Friendly Ottawa's mission is to implement bird-friendly actions in Ottawa. So addressing and mitigating key threats to birds in the city and protecting and restoring natural habitat are their key endeavors. Here's Ecology Ottawa, also came to the Environment Fair. They're a local environment group. You can see kind of what they do on their sign there.
Okay, here's the Wildflower Seed Library, which is a grassroots organization that promotes gardening and native plants. And they provide free access to seeds. They teach people about gardening responsibly, and they ask seed recipients to reciprocate the gift of nature by sharing seeds with others. It's a very cool group. Here are just people having good conversations.
We don't know what that is.
And here are the children's activities that we organized. So we've got a number of books here. You can see for the children, and we've also got a recycling and compost game where you get to choose what bin to put various items in, basically, for the kids to play.
The children's thing was an innovation that we thought was really excellent. The people doing it were a little bit disappointed that there were very few children that showed up. But generally speaking, I think when you make something like this available and you work to make them, I think we failed to make sure that we did have children showing up. But it shows you what is available for your own children to be able to begin to inculcate ideas with regard to respect for the environment.
We also had a table on pollinators with some really beautiful pictures of various flowers and other things that attract pollinators, and a lot of expertise to share on what plants might work well in our climate for bringing pollinators to your home. Here are the electric vehicles, and on the right is the car share vehicle where you can essentially book a time during the day for use of a car that is shared among many different residents of the city, so you don't have to go out and buy your own, which reduces your own environmental footprint and also saves money. We had a water station. It was a hot day. Here's a table on carbon capture, another organization that seeks to advance carbon sequestration through natural and other means, as that's going to be a key component of dialing back the carbon emissions that have already been released into the atmosphere. And we also put together a table about incentives, and we compiled a significant amount of information about what incentives are available to the residents of Ottawa. So this is, for example, you can get up to $10,000 for home improvements. Many different things can be done. You can get a $5,000 government incentive for buying an electric vehicle, and even more if you live in Quebec. So there are significant incentives there too.
Yeah. So what Erin is showing you is the handouts that people actually took.
Right.
And this is an example of real value that would be different in your own communities if you wanted to do an environment fair, because you would obviously have to do a little research to find out what your municipality, your state or province, or your federal or national entities provide for these incentives, and put together this kind of data set. But this is the kind of thing that the feedback that we get from people who come, they find this very useful and very valuable, and it makes them realize that yes, maybe at this time, electric cars cost more than gas cars, but that there's some means by which to mitigate that fact substantially, and so they're more likely to be able to make a different choice the next time they purchase a vehicle.
Yes.
And the same for the homeowner thing that he showed earlier.
So For the electric vehicles, we actually asked members of our community who we found out by word of mouth or otherwise owned an electric vehicle, if they wanted to bring it to the environment fair. And that's where Linda, whose white Kia Soul electric this is, came in. And I remember very memorably when somebody asked her, so, how about your electric car? What do you think of it? She said, quote, "I love it." So she's not going back to a gas car anytime soon. And another good conversation about electric vehicles. This is a comparison. This is one of the handouts that was given out to help people sort through the plethora of electric vehicle options that there are out there. And it gives a comparison of, the electric cars, the SUVs, and the pickup trucks. They were grouped in that way on various factors, including price and range. And this, I think, is also a very helpful handout for people who attended the fair.
And this is actually a spreadsheet taken from mycarbongoals.com, which is a site that Aaron set up, and he updates this information so that people are able to make nuanced, careful decisions about which vehicle to purchase when it comes time to replace their existing vehicle.
Yes. And here is a table with all the materials from the Ottawa Cluster Environment Group. So we have, for example, One Planet, One Habitation, some Baha'i principles, the Environment Cafe flyer to invite people to the Environment Cafe 613, and some more information about the Baha'i faith.
So this, I'm sure everyone here is familiar with One Planet, One Habitation. This is one of the things that we gave away, and there's a story behind it that's very interesting. They didn't arrive at the Bahá'í Center bookstore when they were supposed to have, and we put out a bulletin to please help us get these because we knew they would be a valuable resource for people and for the faith, frankly. And we had some people in Minnesota that coughed up and put in the FedEx and got it to us like 2 days later. I don't know what the carbon footprint was, but we got a whole bunch of these things, and they were like really, really popular. I mean, people just attracted to the art and the beauty of this, and we got these into a lot of people's hands, and it's just really a great thing because the message that it contains, I think, can really open some eyes.
Just another view, standing a little bit back from everything, seeing what's there. And same thing. So in terms of promoting the event to encourage people to come out and visit us, there were a number of ways that this was accomplished. We had 2 radio interviews on CKCU FM 93.1, which is Carleton University's radio station that broadcasts on the airwaves in the city of Ottawa. We advertised through Eventbrite, through our WhatsApp group channels, through the Baha'i Ottawa website actually had this flyer, which you see on the right, posted on it. So you could see directly on the Baha'i Ottawa website that this event was happening. And there was also a newsletter sent out by the city of Ottawa to many different to people on their list, and to the Baha'i listserv, and the environmental and community organizations lists who attended. So we asked people, we asked the other groups who were attending, can you list this information about the upcoming environment fair on your newsletters or on your websites, so we could encourage more people to attend that way too. So
Sherry managed the promotion. She did a really excellent job. She did the interviews, and Sherry, if you're there, if you could jump in, you could say something about what's important with promoting these kinds of things.
Sure. I mean, obviously, you put a lot of work into organizing the event, and, a lot of community organizations, agreed to participate. And, this was the first year they didn't really know the Ottawa Ottawa Cluster Environment Group, or necessarily, they didn't necessarily know really much about, the Baha'i when they found out it's at the Bahá'í Center. But they were very eager to be able to attend this to promote their messages and, engage the community and serve the community by sharing, the information about environmental sustainability. So over the years, our general Baha'i community had gathered a number of email addresses for community associations and media associations for publicity. So we use that, and we found definitely in year 2 versus year 1, the number of people attending increased. We had about 85 people attending the environmental fair this year. And also the attendees were a bit different. In the first year, we were more internally focused, not as much advertising, and most of the participants were from our Baha'i community, and more of the attendees were from our Baha'i community. And then in the second year, we had more participation and attendance from the general public, which was really glad to see, because we're actually trying to serve both constituencies, if you will, whoever finds this information valuable. So having the promotion and broader participation by community organizations really helped provide a better service to the community and attract more participants.
So one of the things that Sherry was telling me was that what we did this year that we didn't do last year that was really important was we got out there early, contacted a bunch of people that have periodicals or publications that need to know the information maybe up to 6 weeks before it happens. And so we had a much more effective promotion because we were included in many more publications and periodicals as a result. So get out there early if you're trying to announce an event like this.
Right. That's the end of the slideshow. So if anybody has any questions, comments, ideas, we're open to ideas and suggestions about how to improve this for future years as well.
I love how you integrated in all these local environment groups this last year. You said that was an addition for your second annual. And yeah, the International volunteering for the International Environment Forum, I've been able to see when you team up with like-minded groups, it's really a synergistic, everyone benefits. You make friends in the other groups, and you get to take advantage of all work everyone has done. Everyone wants to share. That's the whole reason they volunteered for their group in the first place. And it's just did you get that feeling when you were when they volunteered to come participate?
Absolutely. If I can answer this one, I mean, a lot of benefit was gained just by members of the different organizations going around and speaking to each other and meeting each other, and looking to see how they could collaborate together. So it was a little bit like consultations were happening all over the place, especially after the group set up and there was some time before, you know, people started to arrive and attend. We all had an opportunity to network with each other and ask questions and share and learn various information. And that was a big part of enthusiasm, I think, on the people that were participating.
Winnie.
I'm always very interested in government and how their policies affect any of this. And I'm not familiar with the capital of the country's city government. I see you had a city newsletter. I don't know if that was published by a city council, but I'd be interested to hear, because in this little city in North Carolina, we've been able to have quite a lot of interaction with local government. So I would like to hear what, if that's what you've been doing and how it's set up and what might be possibilities in the future.
Well, we actually approached the city of Ottawa about participating in the environmental fair. We had some connection with them actually from some of the activities that Bill and I did with the Rotary Club. And there's always competition for people, you know, with what they're going to do with their time on the weekends, right? So the city was very open to participating, but there was a large home show that they already had their resources dedicated to participating in. But they offered then to publicize our event in their newsletter. So they have a climate and sustainability department in the city that sends out their newsletter, and they did include us in that. And as well, the city has environment committee. Our group has not really you know, gone out and contacted the city or tried to work with them on any initiatives. I think we're a little bit maybe reticent of, you know, partisan politics and, you know, getting involved in that space at this time. It's just not an area that we've explored. But as you can see, some of the organizations that participated here were actively involved in working with the city, or, you know, holding the city to account, if you will, in the sustainability area. And the way I view what we're doing in terms of city collaboration is that, you know, one of the things we want to be able to do is share information, raise awareness, and engage people in activities which help the city of Ottawa to meet its sustainability goals.
Christine.
I think it was very impressive to see so many organizations involved. I mean, it's amazing. First of all, it's amazing that there are so many different environmental organizations in Ottawa, which of course is a well-advanced area of the world in environmental thinking, but still it's great, and that you found them all and that they came, you know, and it was a lot of effort on your part to communicate with all of them, to bring them all together. So I think that's a great accomplishment. And, you know, the Universal House of Justice asked us to collaborate with like-minded organizations. That's exactly what you have been doing. And I think that's why it was so successful. And it should serve as an example for, you know, many other projects. So it's wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
You mentioned you have a cluster environment group in Ottawa. How much support do you have? What kind of cluster are you? How many resources do you have? Like, Are there a bunch of groups, or is this environment group unique?
It-
Tell me more.
This is what we've been tagged as a Baha'i inspired organization. And essentially what it is people with complementary capacities and like substantial. I mean, it's just amazing some of the people that keep a low profile on what their capacities are. But we have journalists, and we have PhDs in geology, and we have a retired school teacher that is very good with figuring out how to you might say lobby for getting some of this information into the junior youth group kind of thing. We're working on that. I was very interested in what Pascal was doing, because we've actually had a hard time. We haven't had great success with incorporating the Baha'i principles as they apply to the environment as any kind of a focus in the junior youth curriculum. So anything that we hear, and I think we have a camp for that, but we're just a loose knit group of people with some we started off writing articles with the idea that whatever article we wrote would be a group article and it wouldn't belong to anyone. And we covered all these areas like greening electric cars and carbon neutral houses and just a whole range of environmental issues. And one person would draft it and everybody else would grab a hold of it, and next thing you know, it was a completely different product, but it was getting distributed all over the place. And then we just started, when COVID came along, it became more important to communicate online. So we started that Environment Cafe 613, but it's just been kind of a grassroots organic thing that's happened. And we're just been amazed how much you can do with so little if you have people who are working together and with a vision of what can be done. And that's kind of where we're at with it. And now it's getting bigger than we are in terms of like what comes next, and how much how do we scale what we're doing up without putting ourselves out of business with regard to energy and resources and such. So
Have you attracted any folks outside of the Baha'i community to participate in your environment cluster group yet?
we have, you want to talk about the 613 and all these things? Yeah.
Yes. So in terms of the Environment Cafe 613, we have had a number of speakers who've given presentations and musicians who've played their instruments and sang for the Environment Cafe 613 who are not part of the Baha'i community. And that's been just really enriching and excellent. So we've been building bridges in that way. And a number of people who attend the Environment Cafe 613 are from outside the Baha'i community. So we have been building bridges, and a friend of mine actually came to one of the environment cafes and expressed quite a lot of interest in the spiritual principles related to the environment that the Baha'i faith and the other faiths, because we have multi-faith devotion in that context, puts forward. So there's been a lot of positive things and bridges built with people outside the Baha'i faith on the environment.
Dawn.
I was just wondering, you had mentioned that spreadsheet you had on electric vehicles information was from a website. Do you have that at the address for that website, or can you share that maybe in the chat or something?
Yeah,
Sure, I'll put that in the chat. It's mycarbongoals.com.
Oh, okay.
Christine.
You talked about, like your project is now has grown so much. What will happen in the future? Will you have the human resources to pull it off again? You know, so maybe if you could collaborate with others so that it's not just the Baha'is that organize it, but you could collaborate, you know, with some of the organizations that participated in your fair. You could contact them and say, well, you know, we would like to pull it off again. Would you like to be on the organizing committee or a representative of your organization? So you bring people together, maybe even other faith groups, that would work as well.
Those are excellent suggestions. I don't know why we don't think of these things. You know, that's, yeah, very good.
Winnie.
Yeah, does your city council, do you have a city council? Is that what you call it?
Think so.
Yeah, city council.
Because we have one that offers once a month on a Monday that you can show up and put your name on a list and have 3 minutes to talk. So that if there's some opportunity like that, I just wanted to list a couple of things that we're able to do in our own little city, which is absolutely tiny compared to Ottawa. But we have a real good long-term relationship with the Parks and Recreation Department. And so they are quite happy for us to plant trees in different parks and have little events there. We also, some of us belong to the Social Justice Committee, and so last Saturday there was a big Unity Festival. So that's an idea where you might be able to go to somebody else's festival. And we had made a handout with QR codes of various service providers. And we didn't make nearly enough handouts. So that handout, I'm very impressed with that work you're doing, Erin, with that handout, because I think so many people will pick up things like that. I'm going to mention some other things, like at the farmers market. One day, I happened to be, we have a fantastic library, and it hosts the farmers market. And one day I went by the library and there was a big health fair in the farmers market. And I went table to table to table and found 10 people who would like to present their service at our citywide devotional that we have one time a month. So going to other people's places might introduce you. We have an urban garden program too, and the farmers are a good source of interest in things like this. But I do think that talking to government is a really, really good idea. And I know that Dawn and her husband have a lot to do with government in Asheboro and what's going on down there. So maybe in a huge city like Ottawa, you can do that through your contacts that you have now. Thanks.
That's very interesting. Thank you for sharing that.
I like to do your fair in September rather than April because you strategically wanted to do it on the other side of the year, thinking.
No, actually, I'm just one member of the group, and I really wanted to have it in the spring, and when people are more of that mind. But the group conclusion was, and I think I kind of getting to agree with it. That is that everybody's doing something then. Nobody's doing anything in the fall. And I think I passed on something Kayla let drop, I think, without thinking maybe, but the spring, she called it the Earth Day in the fall, because she couldn't remember the name of it. And I shared that with members of the group, and they were like, yeah, like that, So, that we might just change our name to Earth Day in the fall. I don't know, but because come
Monopoly on it. No one else, yeah, no one else is doing
Yeah,
anything.
but
September.
the calendar in April and May when we tried to do, to do something was just horrendous in terms of what we would be competing with and what was, what other people would be up to at the time with regard to those things. And in the autumn, there's like crickets, just us. So, and I think that's part of the reason why all of these organizations, which would have been busy in the springtime with their own thing, came with us. So it's just kind of like serendipitously, we're kind of, we're going to try to do a spring one just for grins to see how that's different and such as that. But I think, in hindsight, that having this in the fall is a pretty good idea.
What was your rain? You put on your flyer, rain or shine. Did you have a backup plan of maybe moving indoors if it was a rainy
I
day?
would just take it indoors, and it was really like when we started off, it was a nice cool day, but when the sun hit that pavement, some people were really having a hard time with the heat, and you saw in the pictures everybody's wearing hats and long sleeve shirts and stuff because of the sun. But so there was that. And I just wanted to mention that, that these, something that Winona referred to, and that is the idea of, and also Christine, the idea of participating in other people's fairs as a table. Here's the Ottawa Cluster Environment Group at the Findlay Creek Community Association Fair, and so there's just so many opportunities to embed what we've got going in other people's venues, as well as to create venues, for people to, we're going to help, as it happens, a community we're doing a growth program with, not the group, but the Baha'is, to build community. We're working with that community association to have a fair, just to bring people together, of which we're just going to happen to be there with our environment group, explaining, what can be done in that area, doing the same kinds of things. So once you have something, it's like if you have a video, the thing that you can show the video on the big screen, you can sell it on a DVD, although they don't make those anymore. There's so many. Once you have content, where you can take it to and what you can do with it, it's got a life of its own, and all you got to do is make sure that it nurtures itself to stay alive.
I find what you're doing in Ottawa really inspiring, and the fact that you've got a local environment group with a core group of people who are all passionate about doing projects like this. That's amazing. Any final questions for Bill or Aaron? All right, thank you so much for presenting your Earth Day in September event in Ottawa. I'm inspired to take more action locally now. Yeah, I've been really active with the International Environment Forum, but not in my home community.
Yeah.
And like you guys said, you moved to Ottawa and immediately got started taking action in your new community.
Ottawa was a fertile place with which to do progressive things. And, we want to spread that, and that, whatever content that we produce in the process of doing what we're doing, we want, to make it available to anybody who wants to try to do something that relates to their community that's, can make use of it. And we also want to be able to, give advice and counsel, use the benefit of our experience, and for anybody that is looking to try to do something in their community, we're happy to help them get started.
All right, thank you, Bill and Pascal of Columbia, sharing your field reports with us today. And
Thank you
How-
all. It's very inspiring.
You.
Thanks.
Bye.
Pleasure.
Have a good
My
day.
pleasure. It was good.